You can shut up and drive, and it should be awfully quiet when you're driving the Chevy Volt. Some General Motors dealers are now taking orders for the 2011 Chevy Volt. They announced the price yesterday of the car. George Vollman, the automotive insider, he owns Vollman Ford on I-96 in between Grand Rapids and Lansing, just a little bit west of Lansing in the cool city of Portland. You can find him at VollmanFord.com or theautomotiveinsider.com, and he sells not only Ford products, but just about every car under the sun in the pre-owned variety, right?
Yeah, anytime a customer needs any car, we get it.
And even if they want some, if they can give you the specs, you'll find it and get it.
Yeah, in fact, we're working a couple right now. In fact, our guy came back from New York City, actually Newburgh, New York, with a car last night.
Is that right?
And he'll go out today. I talked to the customer. Yeah, he got totaled by apparently a lumber truck, threw a bunch of lumber off and smashed his car. So here we go.
That happens,
Yeah,
huh?
it happens. And
I always think about that when I'm driving behind something hauling things. I say, let's not be back here.
Right, exactly right. So we basically source about 10% of our used cars that way.
So you're kind of like the Amazon.com of cars. You can just go on there, find what you want, write to your specs, and say, Mr. Vollman, can you get me this car? And you'll find it.
Right, and then it all goes down to the ability to be able to work the customer to come out. Like, for instance, one of the executives from Ford came out yesterday and bought a car for his daughter.
Oh, yeah?
And, we were competing against a Detroit dealer on a used car that was similar. And our response time and all the other stuff won the day. And so because he works on the ordering system at Ford, I had a nice time with him talking about how the ordering system works and what we need to tweak and all that. So we had a nice long conversation. It was very good.
What do you make now? The Chevy Volt, some GM dealers are taking orders at the moment. The price?
Well, we had talked a couple years ago, or maybe it was a year ago, about where I thought the price needed to be to competitive in the marketplace. And I don't look at the Nissan Leaf as the only competition for this car. People are going to do a calculation based on fuel prices and what they're going to save with the electrics versus what they pay for the automobile. And, the subsidized $350 a month lease payment will probably work. The question then becomes what happens when there's no longer a tax credit.
So it's $41,000 to buy, $350 a month to lease.
Correct. And the credit is being, the $7,500 credit is being applied against the lease to reduce that payment. So if you were to look at it without the subsidy, you're now looking in the $600 range for that lease. So you have to, and GM's already asked these questions, and they fundamentally know where they're going with this. So I assume they've handled it. But I'm not so sure that the Nissan Leaf is going to be the main competition for this. I think the main competition is going to be other vehicles that get great fuel economy, and people are going to compare the $1.50 it takes to recharge the Volt estimate versus, let's say, and that comes down to about 3.7 cents a mile versus 10 cents a mile to put the gas in the car versus what it costs to run the car, in terms of the payments and that. So they're going to be doing those calculations, and customers are amazing when it comes to their arithmetic. They're very sharp.
Well, let me ask you the simple question that someone will want to figure out in their head without going through all the work. Will you save money in the overall picture by buying or leasing a Volt?
You will save roughly $900 I'm
average.
I have an economics background, so we assume all the problems away, but assuming that they just drive the Volt on the electricity and not the gas, which is not going to happen, but if they did, the difference is 6 cents a mile versus, or 3.7 cents a mile versus 10 cents a mile, that type of thing. And the people are going to with the $2,500 down that they have to put in, their effective lease payment, if you divide that out over 36 months, is in the 4-something range. And they're going to compare that against the monthly payment for a gas car.
Which,
for an equivalent car, like a Chevy Malibu, probably about $375.
Okay.
So, that's how they're going to do the calculation.
So let me ask you this then. If I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you say that, you know what I'm thinking? I think I'll sit this one out for a while and see how it goes, because the difference isn't that much, and I don't want to be the first one in on new technology, because even in a VCR or an iPhone or whatever it is, they don't usually figure out the glitches right away.
That's correct, and I would caution the customer on one thing. If you're concerned about the ion battery pack, don't worry about it. Ford Motor Company had that concern when they did the hybrids, and quite frankly, they still have the original prototype battery packs running around 10 years later. I mean, these things are built to last.
Senator Cropsey was in here a few minutes ago, and he said to me, I wonder what the price would have been without the government subsidy, without the tax rebate, tax credit.
And the thing is that's a very good question. In other words, would General Motors have been forced to bring it down to like $33,000 or $34,000 to compete against the Leaf? That's an interesting question. But, the thing is that as a business standpoint, I can't rely on, like, for instance, cash for clunkers to sell my automobiles.
Mm-hmm. How long will this tax credit last, do you know?
Don't know that for sure.
So there are people who are saying, well, if I'm going to get in, I better get in now while I can get the rebate.
And there's going to be a percentage of people that want to do the right thing for the environment and so on and so forth, and God bless them. I understand that. Okay?
How big is the car?
It's about the size of a Malibu, maybe a little bit smaller.
So a mid-size car?
In effect, yes.
$41,000.
Right.
Mid-size car. Is it comfortable?
Yeah, I'm sure. GM does a very good job with comfort.
Can't be luxurious, though.
You know what? But all those luxuries actually drain the battery, so here you go.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be quiet. It's VollmanFord.com or theautomotiveinsider.com.
We're going to have a lot on the Volt up on theautomotiveinsider.com.
Theautomotiveinsider.com, or just give George Vollman a call. He doesn't mind. He's answer any question you want about any kind of car. Thanks for being with us.
Hey,
Travel
thanks
safely.
For having me. I will.
He's heading to Mount Pleasant today, up 127, observing the speed limit and not texting while he drives because he's got the Ford Sync technology after all. I'm Michael Patrick Shields.